Sorry, I thought you were back to your lunch before we speak up. I don't mind you.
Order. Members, we're in the Committee of the Whole on the Governor-General Bill and the Rugby World Cup 2001 Empowering Bill, and the committee is resumed. Before the dinner break, the committee was debating clauses 1 and 2 of the Governor-General Bill. The House is enjoying the speech of the Honourable Trevor Mallard, who had the call. The Honourable Trevor Mallard had been speaking for 20 seconds, and he has 4 minutes and 40 seconds remaining, should he so wish.
Mr Chairman, I wish at least that.
The Chair calls the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Chairman, I think the first question that I want to refer to is the title of the bill, the Governor-General Act 2010. And unlike a number of title debates where they might be semi-facetious, there is a real and live question, I think, left with this. And that is whether or not we think it is necessary to have a separate piece of legislation. The matters previously have been very well dealt with under the Civil List Act in particular, and under the legislation of the Remuneration Authority. And what I would like the Minister and the Chair to explain to us is why the amendments in the bill, which the House has agreed to, I think it's fair to say there's been some debate around them, but by and large there's agreement to them, why he thinks it's necessary that we have an additional piece of legislation of this type, rather than doing what Parliament would normally do, and that is to incorporate this sort of change into the primary pieces of legislation. Because, I mean, the problem that I see now as we are dealing with this is that people who go to for example, the legislation with regard to the Remuneration Authority, and I think that is the Civil List Act and the functions of the Remuneration Authority under the Civil List Act, they will not be able to see in that Act the Remuneration Authority's role vis-a-vis the Governor-General, or that appears to be the case, because it appears that has been subsumed into this new piece of legislation, which is to be known as the Governor-General Act. So, Mr Chairman, I think that there's a live question there about. I mean, I'm not so much Geoffrey Palmer for at least when he wrote the fastest laws in the West. What was that? What was the title? Absolute Power. That's right. When he wrote Absolute Power, and in the many speeches he gave in the period, especially between 1981 and 1984, he took unbridled power. I didn't think it was right. Unbridled power. But between 81 and 84, he made many speeches about how we had far too many acts in New Zealand, and we should be working on consolidation rather than proliferation. And so I think the first question of the series that I want to ask the Honourable David Carter, and I just want to congratulate him for acting for the Prime Minister. I think it's fair to say that the Honourable David Carter looks and sounds a little bit more like the Governor-General of my youth than his friend Felipe does, and it might be to do with the history of the landed gentry, but sir, I'm sure that he'll be better across the detail of this legislation, and in particular the need for a separate act rather than taking what I thought was generally the policy of the government, and that was to consolidate, to bring together legislation to make it easier for people who are dealing with legislation going forward to find things, because what we'll have here is a civil list act, which, at least on the face of it, I'm willing to, if the minister can explain to me that I'm wrong, I'd be happy. Mr. Chairman.
Call Phil Twyford.